When people talk about World War II, the focus usually falls on the massive battles, the tanks, or the generals who shaped history. But for the men on the ground, survival depended on far more than weapons or orders. It was about enduring cold nights in flooded trenches, endless marches through rain-soaked forests, and weeks with little food or rest. To make it through, soldiers became experts in fieldcraft, the collection of practical survival skills that kept them alive when conditions turned brutal. These weren't abstract military tricks. They were systems of living, born out of necessity, that still hold value for anyone interested in resilience and self-reliance today. Survival began with the ground itself. A well-dug foxhole wasn't just protection from gunfire. It was a miniature life support system. Soldiers quickly learned that a shallow pit lined with branches and covered with canvas or spare uniforms could block wind, drain rainwater, and even trap warmth from their own bodies. Some units went further, insulating the base with dry leaves and layering the roof with whatever materials they could scavenge. The principle hasn't changed. In any survival situation, terrain is your first defense. A small depression shielded by natural contours can cut wind chill dramatically. Before building anything complex, a wise survivor uses the landscape to reduce exposure, just as those soldiers did day after day in the mud of Europe and the Pacific. Fire was another problem that demanded ingenuity. In the field, smoke could mean discovery and, well, even death. Soldiers learned to build what became known as the smokeless fire, a clean, hot burn using dry wood, small sticks, and tightly controlled airflow. The most efficient design was the Dakota fire hole, a pair of small pits linked by a tunnel. One side pulled in oxygen, the other vented flames straight upward. The result was an invisible fire that required little fuel and left almost no smoke. It was a triumph of necessity over visibility. For modern campers or survivalists, the same design remains one of the most efficient ways to cook or stay warm while remaining discreet and conserving wood. Disease, not combat, crippled more soldiers than any weapon. Trench foot, dysentery and infection claimed entire companies. Those who survived longest did so through relentless hygiene discipline. They dried their socks by the fire every night, rotated footwear, boiled water, and buried waste far from camp. Even in knee-deep mud, they maintained routines that prevented small problems from turning deadly. The same logic applies today, you know. Shelter and food mean little if illness takes hold. A survival plan that ignores sanitation is a plan destined to fail, plain and simple. Keeping clothing dry, filtering or boiling water, and managing waste properly can extend life far longer than stockpiling gear ever could. Fieldcraft also meant learning to improvise. When supplies ran out, and they often did, every piece of equipment had to serve multiple roles. A helmet could be a pot, basin, or shovel. A bayonet became a knife, a stake, or a hammer. Soldiers learned to look at every object as a tool with more than one purpose. That mindset remains central to real survival training, honestly. If you can find 3 uses for every item you carry, you've adopted the same flexible thinking that kept WWII soldiers alive across every front from North Africa to the Ardennes. It's not the tool itself that matters, but the creativity behind it. Camouflage was another art that extended far beyond the printed fabric of uniforms. Soldiers blended with their surroundings using mud, grass, and even smoke-darkened rags. They learned to move silently, break up outlines, and keep reflective surfaces hidden. In survival terms, these same habits increase both safety and efficiency. Moving quietly disturbs less wildlife, which, improves hunting success. Reducing shine on tools and gear keeps attention away. Whether avoiding human detection or simply respecting the rhythm of the wilderness, the lesson endures. Blend with your environment rather than fight it. Rations were famously meagre. Soldiers often went hungry and had to supplement their diets through foraging. In Europe, they gathered chestnuts, berries, and edible greens. In the Pacific, they fished, opened coconuts, and dug for taro or wild roots. Some bartered with locals, others scavenged from abandoned farms. This practical knowledge of the landscape often made the difference between endurance and collapse. The same truth applies today. No single food source is guaranteed. Knowing what grows, what can be trapped, and how to prepare wild foods transforms survival from desperation to self-reliance. Learning local edible plants and simple trapping methods is the modern continuation of what those soldiers practiced daily. But perhaps the most powerful fieldcraft wasn't physical at all. It was mental. The human mind, when disciplined, was the ultimate survival tool. Soldiers who endured bombardment, hunger and exhaustion did so by finding structure in chaos. They built routines, sang songs, carved small objects from scrap wood, wrote letters home, or kept simple journals. These rituals gave them purpose and control in an environment designed to strip both away. Modern survival experts echo the same lesson. Morale is fuel. When fear or fatigue takes over, even the best shelter or supplies won't matter. The ability to focus, adapt, and maintain calm under stress separates those who endure from those who fade. Every one of these lessons, shelter fire, hygiene, improvisation, camouflage, foraging, and mental resilience, came from experience, not theory. They were tested in the cold, in the mud, and under fire. And they continue to prove that survival is not a question of having the right gear, but of understanding the world around you. The soldiers of World War II mastered that understanding because they had no choice. For them, fieldcraft wasn't a hobby or a philosophy. It was the thin line between life and death. For anyone today who wants to live more self-reliantly, these same principles still apply. Learn the ground you stand on. Keep your fire small and your routine strict. Treat every resource as valuable, every object as adaptable, and every challenge as solvable. That was the code of the World War II survivor, and it remains the foundation of every true survivalist since. If you found these wartime lessons as insightful as the men who lived them, subscribe to In the Beginning for more deep explorations of how history's toughest conditions forged the skills we still rely on. Share this with someone who values practical knowledge from the past, and keep these timeless survival lessons alive for the future.